Good evening, I'm Chuck Scarborough.
And I'm Gilma Avalos. Natalie has the night off. As the pandemic causes more and more restaurant budgets to flatline, finally a lifeline for those in New Jersey.
Yes, indoor dining is set to start in the Garden State on Friday morning, but with restrictions. Capacity is going to be limited to 25%, social distancing and masks required.
News 4's Brian Thompson is live in Red Bank with the new challenges that restaurant owners now face. Brian?
Yeah, and indeed, Friday morning at 6 a.m., doors like these will be open to customers who have not been able to do anything but have outdoor dining like you see around here at Robinson Ale House in Red Bank. But this new indoor dining guideline will only take these restaurants so far. The Robinson Ale House, here one of the lucky restaurants in New Jersey, as a borough of Red Bank opened up its sidewalks for outdoor eating. Plenty of space indoors as well, even with 6 feet of social distancing, and diners ready to make the leap.
I think if the stores can be open and the malls can be open, I believe that we're ready with the restaurants.
But getting staff is now the big worry. During this booming summer outdoors, finding staff was hard enough as workers worried about getting the disease. And for the many restaurants that have been closed with no space for outside dining.
And they afford to hire people if they're only getting 25%. And they don't have outside dining to supplement it.
All of the normal safety guidelines will have to be in place, and yet there are some still not ready to take that step.
What will it take?
I'm going to say a vaccine, but right now outside is working, but inside it's also our age.
25% of capacity is a big hit when you have big bills to pay. But after a summer as good or better than last year outside, McClune says he just needs a little more.
If it gets to 50%, we feel that's sustainable for the winter. Because how often during the winter are our places at 50%?
But as for the possibility of shutting them down again, Governor Murphy warned.
Would we consider reversing this if it looked like it was blowing up on our face? And sadly, I have to say yes. I certainly hope not to. And it would be a sustained increase.
Now, the governor did say, however, that if the numbers keep showing like they are now, and that's especially the retransmission rate, the new hospitalizations, well, then it won't be too long where maybe he can make the decision to get to 50%, the magic number that Tim McClune says they can eke out through the winter until they get another summer of outdoor dining. Live in Red Bank, Brian Thompson, News 4 New York.
Brian, thank you. New Jersey's in, so what about New York City? Governor Cuomo says we're still not ready. The governor acknowledged that the beginning of indoor dining in New Jersey will translate to a, quote, competitive disadvantage for the 5 boroughs. But he says he wants to first monitor Labor Day weekend, the beginning of flu season, and the return to school before making a decision. He also questioned who would be in charge of compliance.
Restaurants are under a lot of pressure, and there will be some restaurant owners who say, I know it's at 25%, but you know, I did 40%. I have tables in the back, and well, who's doing the compliance, and how good has the compliance been? We know in New York City there have been compliance issues.
And it comes as New York State hit 24 straight days of a daily COVID test positivity rate below 1%. One New Yorker died from COVID yesterday, and that is the lowest single-day death toll in months.
All right, come back down to New Jersey. How about dinner and a movie on a Friday night for a date? Governor Murphy also signed an executive order allowing movie theaters and other indoor performance venues to reopen in New Jersey September 4th, this Friday. Again, there are restrictions, face masks and social distancing required, and capacity will be capped at 25% or 150 moviegoers, whichever is less. Well, still a lot of uncertainty tonight about the reopening of New York City schools, just 10 days away now, and it appears teachers are not going to strike, but they could use a different strategy. News 4's Andrew Siff is live in Lower Manhattan with details on that strategy and why the governor is urging caution. Andrew.
Right. Chuck, at this very hour, the executive board of the United Federation of Teachers, that's the teachers union here in New York City, they're having an online meeting and discussing options. And yes, they're discussing a strike, even though that may not seem likely at this hour. But the union president said it is time to turn up the pressure.
It's not like the mayor's going to convince me not to have a mandated testing program.
Teachers Union President Mike Mulgrew says COVID testing is the deal breaker, currently optional for teachers and students, and the mayor saying that's based on international science.
The mandatory approach has not been the way that's been done in other countries, and it's something that we've looked at but believe, for a variety of reasons, it is not the best way to get to where we need to go.
So with that sticking point, at this hour, the teachers' executive board meeting remotely.
We're going to ratchet up the pressure.
Still discussing the first teachers' strike in the city since 1975.
Nobody wants to go on strike. Nobody. But nobody wants to be put in a position, because what happened in March was that we were told there were safety procedures in place that weren't being followed.
And the mayor insists they've made major progress reassuring parents. 1,300 school buildings now inspected out of 1,500. That's 88%. 247 outdoor learning applications accepted and 324,000 iPads distributed for remote learning. Not enough to calm parents like Amy Cervini.
Until the teachers feel safe and until I feel safe, I'm not going to send them back.
And no clear path to get to the first day of school for students like fifth grader Julia Ferrara.
We don't exactly know what the deal is going to be, if it's going to stay like this, or is it going to go back to remote, or is it going to be completely go back to school.
That fifth grader summing it up about as well as anyone. Nobody knows what the next 10 days will bring for New York City schools. The executive board meeting happening at the UFT, and then the full membership has a Zoom chat tomorrow afternoon to talk about their next steps. Live in Lower Manhattan, Andrew Siff, News 4 New York.